we can realize that we're always whole, sometimes they're just pieces of us, right? That are still in our bubble, in our circle, right? Our sphere, that are just not attached, right? They're still us. So it's not a broken piece. It's still there. So if it's still there, it can't be broken. It just needs to be put into the direct place. It's like a puzzle, the puzzle piece, right?
Cordell, thank you so much for joining me today, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on here. I've been wanting to interview for you for a while. So you're an energy architect. You're a dancing biohacker. You're into longevity, wellness, gamification, AI, a ton of stuff. And then you're an awesome conversationist. I love hearing your thoughts, and it's just, you don't shy away from even anything. Like you're able to dive into like any conversation, and I love it. So for any listeners who aren't familiar with you, anything you'd like them to know about you?
Anything I'd like people to know about me. I love life, man. I honestly, I love life. I love people. I'm all about us finding our truest expression of being. And I think that everything from the energy architecture, so energy architect, human potential hacker, dancing biohacker, like all the fun names, and Slate out, like all my dancing, my choreography, AI, wellness, longevity, just being in highest excitement towards purpose, and purpose can be anything. I think purpose is whatever highest excitement ends up stating. So that's what we'll see as a reflection in our actual lives. And yeah, I'm just all about love, empathy, and just finding our heart centers, man. So more of that. I love life. So let's go. If you want to know more about me, no love. Yeah, that and just being as authentic as possible. But even saying that word, sometimes it can be triggering. Like, what is authenticity? So honest, when I say authenticity, I just mean being in your own highest excitement, whatever that looks like for you. And that can be anything. That changes moment to moment. I think that's the beauty, though. We change every moment. So that's what true authenticity equals. It's not like some oh, I did this perfect thing. It's like, no, authenticity could be the effed up thing you did. Like, that is a part of your character, that maybe you want to shift, but the shift is a part of the character. Like, it's like, it's not me. No, it is a part of you. But do you want that to be part of you? Is that the truest version of you? I think that's important. So, yeah.
So, what is an energy architect?
Beautiful. Energy architect. So I have this, maybe you could use a acronym, PEMS. So PEMS, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energy. So I think that these are all parts of our energetic sphere, right? All these aspects of ourselves, all these aspects of our characters. And an energy architect is one that is able to take all of the different energy centers and, oh, well, we need more here. This one has a leak in it, so let's fill that leak. Oh, this one is like right here. The circuit's going. This is cool. I love that part of my life. So just taking different parts of our lives and moving and maneuvering them energetically to best elicit our highest excitement and move into purpose. That's with intention, I believe, is the key to that as well. With intention, the intentional part is a kicker. So I would say that's the simplest way to describe an energy architect, is literally the building blocks of your own personal energy, all of your centers, from your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual energy bodies.
How did you become an energy architect? Like, how did it all start for you? Were you always into energy, or is it something that you learned about it over time?
Energy for me, and that's a really good question too. Energy for me, how did I begin? Dance. It's all with the dance, the movement, the diving into my internal states. So, as a dancer and performer, entertainer, human, I learned how to tap into my inner world versus all the external. There's an inner world of your energy, inner world energy. Just a little play on words, but I think that that is a huge part of the creation where everything started. It was literally all from exploring my movement. I used to not speak like this as much, and so the way I was able to speak or really express myself was through movement, through the dance. So instead of speaking verbally, I was able to like find it in my whatever core, whatever I was feeling, whatever emotionally was moving me, was my way of communicating, getting through things, processing things. Everything was communication through the dance, through energy, through movement. So I use energy in the terms of our inner light, our inner feelings, our emotions, tapping into that. And then from there, because our emotions are energy in motion, right? So if I could pinpoint where these emotions are coming from, then I can easily build upon them, strip some of these things down after reviewing them, move things different places, or maybe there's a part, maybe for me, a healing moment for me could be I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed and sad. I just need to process so much of this stuff out. So maybe there's an emotional song that I tap into, and there's lots of emotions I'm going into. So like I'm pouring out, I'm creating, I'm moving and playing an energy there, and I'm healing myself all in the same breath while living my life. And that's all energy. So I was able to shift that and call that energy architecture because you are literally creating and building different built blocks of energy through your body, through again your physical, through your emotional, through your mental, through your spiritual. So there's a lot that goes into energy architecture. And I honestly, I think this past year is when I really came up with the concept of it. I think I've just been living it, and finally, after going through it and living through everything, my own life, I was able to come to this download, which was energy architecture. Let's build some sort of what's the word? I don't want to say strategy system. So the system is the energy architecture. So I just needed to give it a name so that could solidify what in the world it was, since I write down stuff all the time versus it being like, yeah, I just kind of do this thing when I have a little bit more structure and build it. But literally, energy architecture is building the structure. What's the blueprint? And then from there, okay, we can build these things, we can map these things out. And this is trial and error from there. You figure out how to play an energy, build it up, um, move it. But I learned a lot of that through the dance, through moving crowds and people. What movements do what energy feels what? How do we elicit these feelings and put people into a whole new world? I think that when you get into those kinds of depths, it starts to create itself, and you learn about yourself. You learn about your energy and what it is that you are amazing at, what is it you like and you don't like, and you don't move, and things like that.
So I'm reading a book called The One Thing right now. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah,
you've read it. He talks about balance, and he says it's a myth. And I've heard this from a couple people, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this. And I think there's some truth in it, but I think that there's also some untruths in there because I think when people are talking about balance, I don't know, maybe I'm just clinging on to the concept of balance because I've used the word, I've used the concept a bit when I talk. But is this about balance at all, or kind of, or does balance not
uh,
exist to you?
what does balance mean to you? Could you give me like a definition of balance? So we have the same definition of balance because you said you use it a lot. So we can clarify what balance is to both of us. What does that mean? Or what should we label it? What is balance for you?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's kind of a hard definition. I think there are different aspects of our lives, and um, I don't think they have to be balanced in the sense like you have to give time to each one, but you have to be giving attention to the things that matter. So you, in that sense, it's like you have to be balancing things. Like if you're a parent, you have to be balancing your own needs as a person with the needs of your child. You have to balance, you know, the errands you have to run, the chores you might have with your work and different things like that. And then I think like with the one thing, and he gives a dancing analogy, he gives ballet. And he's like, you know, a ballet's when they're balancing, there's actually like these tiny movements. It's actually, you know, like you're if you're balancing on your toe, you're actually like struggling in a
Yeah, well,
certain
we're
sense
yeah
to
squeezing your core up. Everything's pushing up. Some things are pushing down. So like shoulders are pushing down, squeezing up. Or, you know, you're upright. So I guess it just yeah, there's a balance there. There's a way to link and sync so everything kind of moves cohesively. You know.
yeah, and he uses the term counterbalance. He's like, it's
Yeah,
more appropriate
exactly.
to call
Yeah,
things counterbalance.
yeah,
But counterbalance is balance to me. Like if you're
yeah,
counterbalancing, you're balancing. So
yeah. It's the
I
same thing,
get a
different
little
word,
confused with that.
in my opinion. Yeah, same thing, different word.
So do you feel like you're aiming for some kind of balance, or is it something else?
No, I'm just aiming really to be really super simple. I'm aiming for simplicity. So highest excitement, moving to my highest excitement, and you do that with energy architecture. That's how I like energy architecture is literally just a review about you, a review of you. So there's I don't know that there's a for me personally it isn't about balance per se. It could be, you know, I have like getting so balancing. Um, but I think that we are naturally always balanced because whatever is going on, we're always in movement, right? So we're always flowing. So some people might say, "Well, I'm out of balance." Well, what if out of balance is actually moving you to the next space for you to be in the next position to be like, you know, what is balance? Balance to some people at certain points in their lives could be I'm going full in um, on a business. Balance another part of life could be like I am resting. I am not doing any like you know my everything's a lot slower, very like more comes in waves. Sometimes it's like so who decides that? So I don't. So it's like hard to state what balance is when there's do we know what this looks like, or is it like we're balancing our physical bodies, you know, our chemical balances. These are things that are balanced. These things working. Da, 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 da. That's one thing, right? That's just physical, but there's multiple dimensions to us and our being. So we should say what that is. Easiest way to say that again is the middle way. I think maybe the way I think about it is just the middle way, but my own reasoning behind it is literally to be in my highest excitement in order to find the most joy out of life and just live. I think that's the biggest thing versus over worrying. You know, what's bringing me joy? What's bringing the people around me joy? How is what I'm doing mm, supportive to myself, supporting life for me, supporting life for the people around me. Like, you know, that, because I think that for me, maybe that's balance, but it's not there's not like an MO to energy architecture that's balanced, just to make that clear.
How do you define highest excitement? Because it seems like the way you define that will dictate what you find to be your highest excitement. Like if you
Got it.
define it poorly, then an 8 ball of Coke could be your highest excitement, you know, like
Yeah. So
or
for
12 pack of beer.
right, but so this is very so first I'll say this energy architecture the way I view it is very personal. So it's going to be different for everyone. The way I do it may be different. Well, not maybe it's going to be different from the way Artie would do it. Like same principles, but the results are going to vary depending upon what works for you. And for me, the way I decide what my highest excitement is literally my cells light up. When do my eyes light up? When do I feel the most energized? When do I get goosebumps? When do my hair stand up on my arm? That's why for me, I could feel it. I feel when I'm in excitement, right? Just like if an interview is coming, are you excited for the interview, or you're like, dang, another interview, man, it's a lot of work. Yeah, that's not your highest excitement. You probably don't want to be doing that then. And for me, I'm also I'm big on human design as well, life paths. Also, what's my MBTI? You know, what's my personality like? What does that look like? And how does that fit in for me? So I think that those things are important in kind of deciding what your highest excitement can be. But for me, it's always, my deciding factor, what lights me up? What energizes me? Today could be different than tomorrow. So like, but it's situational, but we aren't fixed beings. We're literally open beings. So why would I close myself in a box, right? To say, this is what highest excitement looks like every single time. I can't know that because my highest excitement changes just like I do. So it's constantly growing. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's situational. It takes daily checking in with yourself to then know what's, well, all right, today, what's this thing? What does that feel like, Cordell? All right, what are we doing? I know last night I said I wanted to do this thing too. This morning, what is highest excitement telling me? What am I feeling? What am I going with? What's flowing today? What's feeling right? What do we do? And how do we, and then from there, it's just a different lifestyle, I think. Living in that, it's very different from what most people, I think, live like, but it works for me. And my goal behind image architecture is that what works for me, and then by showing what works for me and by being in my own highest excitement, I think that will hit other people for them to dial into what's their highest excitement thing. He's following his thing. So it's not always follow exactly what Cordell does. It's like, oh, there was like a kind of a formula to what he's doing that works for him. Maybe I can uncover what works for me more by trying some of these things. And it's not like, diving into what are these energy leaks and how does that work? And what part of my maybe Myers-Briggs hierarchy of needs am I lacking in? What do I need? What can I fill? How have I been filling that? Just so we're just questioning over and over and over again, kind of like a Socrates kind of philosophical questioning everything, kind of feel.
And you help other people, right? Like you work with other people with energy too, right?
Yes.
So if you're working with somebody else, how do you help them figure out what their highest energy is? Because obviously somebody could coming up to you and they don't have the background in energy that you do. And what I'm kind of wondering is, how do you differentiate between highest energy and cheap dopamine? Because we live in a consumer economy where some people are just chasing that cheap dopamine.
Yeah, well, it's getting to know what you get, everything is dopamine related. So, we're only in this conversation because the dopamine allowed for us to be in this conversation, because we were like, we got enough hits to where our body was like, oh, this is going to be juicy enough to do. This is important for some reason. Let's go. So we had to get enough dopamine hits for us to get excited, for us to do it, right? Because everything takes energy. Every single thing. Us talking takes energy. Us moving takes energy. So therefore, like literally every single thing is energy. So it's so for me, let me use an example of So basically, there you can do an assessment. I have an assessment that I give people at the very beginning. So here are some questions. Answer these. Da, 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 da. And then from there, I have my AI as well go back and based upon what I've given it to them, based on what I've given to them, it will spit out, okay, there's this, here's that, here's this. Also, these could be an energy leak. There's just questions that just kind of like open them up, and then we just start diving in. So it's I won't just know. We have to do an assessment to figure out what those are. But usually, there's lots of there's small. How do I want to say that? Pointers that I can like. There's, because I've done it my own self. I can like hear it. Like, what's your issue? What are you wanting? To do? What's your purpose? So basically, like, how do we get people's energy higher? How do we boost their energy in X level, an X sphere? So maybe my mental energy is suffering, right? So maybe I'm having lots of doubts going on. Maybe like I am not getting, or I'm dealing with like not having enough sleep because of X, Y, and Z. Well, the goal is to fish and find what exact instances caused this energy leak, or caused you to like feel, oh, because naturally that's not how our bodies work. Our bodies are created and made to sustain energy, to keep us going, to move, to pump and go, right? So figuring out what is causing this is the goal, and then from there, let's attack that part of it. Let's attack exactly that thing and see how we can patch up that leak, maybe that mental energy leak, and then get you more energy, mental energy. So then when you have more mental energy, you have more energy to go talk to people, do things, be around, versus like, oh, I don't feel like that. Oh, no, that sucks. Because then whenever you start saying things like that, then there's a leak somewhere. There's an issue, because otherwise you wouldn't be deficient in energy.
Uh, I mean, physical energy seems pretty important because it seems like what's going to drive everything else, right? If you're eating the wrong foods, you're not giving yourself the right physical fuel, so you're probably going to not have the right energy for mental activities, spirituality. A lot of that's going to be out of alignment. How do you handle that? Like, because you're in very good shape. It seems like you eat very well. Yeah, I mean, you're in phenomenal shape. So I'd imagine most people are not going to be coming to you in your physical condition. So yeah,
Oh
how
my
do
God.
you help people? Because sometimes there can be that. Sometimes when people are coming to somebody and it's like, oh, I want your help to have energy, and it's like, but I don't want to have to eat like you, or I don't want to have to go to the gym like you, or, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you
So how
find
do
out
you?
well, first I have to find out, what do you want, and why do you want it, and what does it do? Like, and then when you get that, what'll happen? And I think in general, the overarching theme for energy architecture is complete authority and autonomy over ourselves energetically.
Hmm, okay. What does that mean? Like, where do people not have autonomy over themselves
Oh
typically?
yeah, if you ever ask yourself, have you ever said to yourself, "I don't know why I do that," that means you don't have autonomy. I mean, if you don't know why you don't do something, you haven't gone in and understood where it comes from and why you do it. Otherwise, you would know why. The question marks, like, I don't, I want to do this. I want my body to be like this. I want my health to be like this. Why isn't this like that? What's going on here? All those questions can all be answered when you do the work. So the work is energy architecture. So it's like, if I want these things, I have to align my energy to be in alignment with the things that I desire or want to be, see, feel, do. Also, if, for my example, like Cordell, what feels right? Is the thought that is the words that are coming out of your mouth in alignment with your energy and your truest authenticity and your truest excitement? If it's not, then you'll feel it. Then you can question, why was I feeling like that? What happened there? Where is this coming from? And then once you question that, and you go and dive into that particular like thing, like, oh, I found out where this particular thought was hindering my life. And if I do this thing, this may have came from my childhood at age 7, when I found out that somebody didn't like me, and then I chose to take that personally, and I didn't realize that stayed in my energy, and I had a clogged emotion. So every time I get around somebody that reminds me of that particular thing from 7 that I haven't healed from, like, it comes up, and it's a leak. It's leaking energy somewhere, and it's what's causing me to have those same pattern reactions that I may not enjoy, or I don't know where they're coming from. So I don't know why I do this action, but this thing has been paining me in my life. So it's like, oh my God, all I need to do is go and find out where the source of this one thing was, why that energy is leaking, and find out if that's a physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual leak. And then I can do something about it. And then now I have more autonomy, because guess what? I make autonomous what is me. Autonomy. So now I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I'm doing the things that are in alignment with my highest excitement and energy already now. Because before I wasn't, because my energy was leaking. I wasn't feeling good. But now that I fixed it, my energy's high here in this area. Yay, filled energy leak. Like now, so now our energy in that particular space and place, which could have been something mental, a mental thing that was going on, is now fixed. Boom. Or maybe something spiritual. Like I'm not spending enough time with myself. I'm not centering. I haven't meditated. I haven't gone internal. And so because I don't spend enough time with myself, I tend to do things that feel out of self. It doesn't feel aligned, right? But the only way I can do that is if I start to go internal and meditate and dive in and find out what those things are spiritually for me. That I can feel that spiritually. Just to give an example of things that you could do or people can do to work on different parts of their energy centers. If that helps.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're like if I hear somebody say, I don't know why I do that, what I'm thinking is that they're just kind of on automatic mode. And maybe like in your example, I think you're kind of saying that they're doing something that they maybe don't want to do. And then they're just kind of not diving in and figuring out why.
That's not in their highest excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they haven't figured out why, they haven't felt like uncovering it. So when they're running on automatic, their automatic is like, they're doing things that they actually don't want to do. And you're trying to get them to be a point where their automatic is what they want to do.
Yeah. It's not in alignment. So basically easiest way to say this, if it's not in alignment, then energy architectures is here to help put it into alignment. I'm clearly not in the crowd that I want to. Well, great. Energy alignment is going to help put you in the correct energy, because then you can get in the frequency of the energy that you desire to be in. That's going to excite your cells, like excite them, give them energy, jolt them, push them to like, oh my God, I feel so great. I'm so excited. Whoa. Like, even like the phrase I just gave you, that's excitement. So when you see that in people, like even like your eyes lit up a little bit like that. You're like, you're starting to smile a little bit with that. Like you're doing head nods, gestures. You're getting more energized by that. Like even like I'm giving you this, but I'm also lacing what I'm saying in energy, in highest excitement. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be talking to Artie too about these things that I love in it. And like, this is good. I'm giving this off. So you'll feel it, even if you don't necessarily understand it. You'll feel the energy. You'll feel the rise, because it's a different frequency shift. And I'm giving we're literally throwing frequencies back and forth with each other now. So we're also doing an energy exchange in this very moment. Everything's an energy exchange.
Why is it that this isn't the default for people? So like, I mean, what excites us should be what we're kind of naturally drawn to. So why is it so much that we're spending so much time and energy on things that don't excite us and aren't where we want to be? That might sound like kind of a dumb question, because I think
question. I believe it's systemic. I believe because people learn one thing and they think that it's them, but it's truly not them. Because if it was them, they'd be excited about it. When it's not you, you get you're more from what I've experienced. I think a person is more likely to have ill feelings towards it, or if it is a part of you that you do not want to be a part of you, it also bugs the hell out of you, because your body's like, I hate this thing, but it's also maybe it's a part of me. I don't want it to be a part of me, so I'm so pissed off at it that I'm gonna charge full force at all these things. But then that's causing but then you're in force. You're not in flow. You're not in your highest excitement. Usually you're trying to like F something up, like, oh, I'll get through this, I'll power through this. And then people wonder why they've done those things over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, it's insanity, but they just copy what they see other people doing, or their parents have done, and they've heard, well, this is tradition, so we do it like this. But their body's telling them, yo, this clearly isn't right, but you're going to follow it because you want to feel loved, and your family does this, and these people. So it's like it's social. Lots of people care about their social status. They care over their self. Over their self. They care about what other people think versus what they think. And so because of that, they are in other people think. And so their actions are not really their actions. They're actions based upon other people's actions, not based upon their DNA and how they are actually regulated. It's like, oh, for instance, there's drug, like, there's different drugs that people take. Those drugs have different reactions to different people, right? Because they're not the same. But a lot of people do this, but here this generalized idea. So here's a general. This is what most people do, and because most people do this, it's safe for you to do. Which I think that's that makes everybody so similar that it's not one size fits all is never the answer. At least from what I believe. And I think that people will think that, well, get it, for Americans, like, the American dream, work a 9 to 5, go to school, da 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 da, get the thing, do that thing. And now, even now, today, like, there's so much like fight against the 9 to 5 too, because so many people are. It's just you're taking away the thing that I think that makes us all human, which is our creativity, our imagination. And so when you tell people this is how you create, and you create just like this in this box, there's no way that that's going to make sense. There's no way that the box is not going to get like rammed into a ton of times, because we're expansive beings. We're not meant to be closed in these boxes, right? So it's like, something's up, something's wrong. But my parents love me, and this is how people do it. So I should just suffer and stay here because that's what we're supposed to do, right? And people aren't using critical thinking skills. This is just what other people do. So I'm going to do it. I don't want to look weird or feel ostracized, X, Y, and Z. But they ostracize themselves from themselves, which is where the real energy leaks come. People actually like, I don't know who I am. Of course you don't, because we've been so busy doing what everybody else is doing and placating and people pleasing to our own detriment.
So you and I have we both quit drinking over the last 5 years. I think I quit a few years ago. You quit a few years ago. And you mentioned addiction, and addiction is something that is draining for our energy and consumes a lot of our energy. And getting over an addiction seems like it has the potential to take up a lot of energy too. So I'm curious how you quit drinking and how that worked energetically for
Yeah,
you.
I'll give a kind of like a synopsis of it. The couple things that happen. A, addictions are dopamine stealers in general. Takes a ton of dopamine because once you start doing something, uh, you start getting used to it. But then you need more of it. So that's more dopamine that you need to pour into that thing. And then that thing can end up feeling natural, normal. I always have to have this. I'm addicted to it. I must, or else I can't function as a person because my identity is tied in this substance, in this thing, in this action, in this person. And for me, what ended up happening was I just being a people pleaser in general, because I stopped drinking 2020, October 12th. And the catalyst leading up to that was, I knew I needed to stop. I think we have to emotionally want to stop though too. So I think that for me, I knew that I needed to emotionally be ready to quit. Be like, versus like I talked to you earlier about being in force. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stop my drinking. I have. But see, like when you do stuff like that, like you're literally you're in force, and that can work. People can force their way through things, and cool. But for me, I was like, I need to take time, and so gamification came around for me, and understanding that I needed to quit because it was I got in trouble with some jobs and stuff like that with my drinking. I also knew that for me it was just a way to also like I always have energy and I'm always a very like outspoken person, but I was extremely insecure. So it was also a way for me to also fit in with people. Like I was already just wild without having to drink, but the drinking gave me like an ad to be like, yeah, I was drinking with you. We were all drunk. So I could I could also assimilate more versus like, and then, but also turned into like, just drinking because of like, I was even more just like, more of myself, but like it was like acceptable by other people. So once I learned, I just was like, well, I'm also doing crazy things while I'm drinking, or just things that I just don't like. I don't feel in complete control. And even if I have like the mindset, like, oh, I don't drink for the taste, or like, and mind you, I did have, like, I was a pretty functional alcoholic when I was an alcoholic. Um, one of my biggest problems was like I was not myself. I knew that at a point it was not helping my health. I started feeling issues like in my my liver. I could feel it affecting my dancing. I could feel it slowing my brain. I could feel it. I could feel it like making me sluggish in some aspects, even though people would not know that because like typically like my energy or other people's just my even my normal is a lot of people's high energy or like so luckily I have those kind of storages, but because I know I have that kind of capacity, it's like, all right, something's wrong. Let's finally, like, when you're ready and you're ready to like say I'm over it, let's go for it. So I did that. Um, gamified it by making it into a game. One of my friends did this whole like 30 days no fried foods, and that was like one of my like kind of like my gateway into like the 30-day challenges, like the challenges and stuff. Before like all these challenges got like popular online, like I know especially like on X and like, all these challenges. Here's your challenge, um, and and it was fun. I wanted to make it fun. I wanted to make my transition and my health a priority, my mental health a priority. So a big part of that was stopping the drinking. So I could be more clear. Um, and once I started doing like the 30 days, no drinking for 30 days, and I got the confidence because a big part was consistency and doing things for long periods of time. Once I didn't have that belief in myself, so when I started getting that and getting that belief, and then started to get my word started to become even better and better and better, and I was like, oh, I did that. Oh my god, da, 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 da. Like life became better, and so because of that, I was able to keep the momentum of not drinking going for so long that it became my norm. Like I was saying to you, it became autonomous. So now I don't have like and I know I'm using that. Maybe people might not think that the way I use that makes a lot of sense, but for me and the way I view it, uh, creating a specific lifestyle or way of being. That's why I call it. It's just a lifestyle now. I don't have to think about it. It's automatic, so autonomous. For me, it's automatic action. So now I don't even like, I can be around alcohol whenever I want to be and be fine. Like there's not like a, oh, you should drink, or oh, you're missing out. Like it's just kind of like you walk. It's like that. You don't really think about walking right foot in front of left. It's kind of like that for me now. And that's what I mean by being autonomous, because now my energy towards that thing is clear. It's beautiful. It's Gucci. I feel in, I get energy from that, And every time I make even when because it's also something to think about too. It's also still a daily choice. Everything's still a choice because at any moment I can choose to do anything I want to do, right? But now that like I have this set thing, it's not even something I have to think about anymore. My body just naturally, like walking, so simple, so beautiful. And so I think that if you look at energy architecture and you think about any of those areas I gave, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and apply that same logic that I just gave to this, to all those aspects of your life, that's what energy architecture is.
When you're quitting something, you have to give it some energy. First, I mean, if you're trying to do willpower, which is usually going to fail, that takes a lot of energy. So you have to use your energy in the right way to get over an addiction or to especially get past that initial stage of like, with drinking, I felt like after 90 days, it was easy. Like it wasn't horrible that first 90 days or anything like that, but after 90 days it was easier. That first 90 days is definitely the hardest. 30 days is the hardest. Probably the first few weeks is hard. How do you give that the energy to quit without giving it the energy to consume you?
Deprogram and
Like
reprogram it yourself.
yeah.
So to consume you would mean that it's anti you.
When you were drinking, did you have that pull of like friends? I don't know how you were when you quit drinking, but when I quit drinking, and it sounds like you were similar, like I was functional. I was, I guess, fun at parties, and most people didn't see like the hardest time when it's like I couldn't stop drinking at the end of the night when everyone else was done. Did you have people that didn't understand where you were at and wanted you to keep drinking with them and stuff like
Not
that? And how did you
necessarily.
handle that?
I mean, yes, there were people that were like, Cordell, you're not drinking? What? Like, no way. Da 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 da. But I think as I continue to just show up as the person who never doesn't drink anymore, and I like with my actions, I showed that. Um, it the like, oh, do you want to drink? Kind of just fell, and also it just became easy. It became a little bit easier for me to just be like, no, I'm Gucci, like I'm golden. The only difference was like I started just to back away from going out as much, and then I also just started to move away from a lot of those friends. Some not not that they're bad. I don't think there's anything bad about any of them. Uh, I just recognize that the kinds of relationships I desired were also, I want deeper relationships. I want things that really like, let's talk to each other on a soul level, y'all. And then also, still fun, like, whip my hair around that I don't have, and like, I'm also still an entertainer, a dancer. I love moving. It's innate in me. So like, I'm a wild child, anyways. You know, so and because and that's a big reason too why I I love those people too, and then also like those moments where I'd be like, oh, but like you're moving on, maybe you should do and like there's a whole I think there's just a whole human character change. Like everything changes, everything starts to change, and so it gets scary. There's moments of scariness. Like, are these people I should be around? Are these not? Do I go here? Do I go there? Do it like am I being rude by saying that? Do it like I still love them, right? Like, do they love me? Do they hate me now because I'm not doing this, or are they fine? How is this working? What should I do? And I think that all comes back down to like, hey, what's your highest excitement? To like end up finding later. But I was in such a mood to like, oh, I'm powering through. I'm Cordell. Like I can do anything. I can I can force my way through. Like because a lot of it was will. Like most of the beginning too was a lot of willpower. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I had a lot of fucking willpower, which is great. So it was because I'd never done some of this stuff, like a lot of this stuff before. I didn't have like family members or people around me that were doing this too. So I was, and I didn't really talk to my parents about stuff like this or any of that. So, it's hard to relate when everybody else is doing the things that you're into. And then I was also like in my own little worlds, getting into AI, and then also in my own little world, getting into all the personal development gurus and what was it, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins, um, hope, well, who else? Just a whole bunch of that crowd, everybody in the personal development spaces, Brendan Bouchard, um, a lot of them, Lewis House. Yeah, I've been in such a calm that like I know whatever is meant to happen in this moment is gonna happen. And while like I would like everything to work out perfectly, and even our interview because our second one we've done together, with the first one getting all completely erased, I was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Um, like I'm grateful, and I think that's what energy architecture has also helped with is being grateful that I'm having this conversation, being grateful that we even get a chance to make these cool things happen, right? And it's exciting. I love it. So it's like what, maybe if I just got a little bit better in these aspects of my life, my energy would increase. Maybe if I got better in that spot, and that's kind of like what it was like for me with drinking and alcohol. It was very much like, okay, once I fix this, um, mend this broken part of me. Maybe not even actually. I don't even know if even saying that. I don't even think that it is a broken part. Maybe it's just like I was saying earlier, it's just unaligned, right? So there's not. I don't think there's actually fundamentally anything broken about us as human beings. I used to say that word a lot, and it just came to me. So I wonder if that's something. Maybe if somebody's struggling with that word, I'm broken. If we can realize that we're always whole, sometimes there's just pieces of us, right, that are still they're still in our bubble, in our circle, right, our sphere, that are just not attached, right. They're still us. So they're not. It's not a broken piece. It's still there. So if it's still there, it can't be broken. It just needs to be put into the direct place. It's like a puzzle, the puzzle piece, right? And then you just put all the like the little pieces together, and then you're just continuing to do that. And sometimes when you put that piece together, you realize, oh wait, there's a whole bunch more puzzle pieces over here. I never saw those puzzle pieces before. I thought I was all the way together. But then like sometimes it's like you just get to that next mountain, then you realize, oh, now I can break out of this mountain, and I'm in another mountain. It's like so this one's just this big, and you just keep doing that, and just keep expanding. I think that's the most beautiful thing we can do with ourselves is keep expanding, and that's all. That's what. So as far as addictions go, uh, taking I don't even know what I'm it's so man some of these words, this wording, ownership of our truest selves. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing right now too. Taking full, complete ownership of our true and most vibrant selves. Oh, I almost said cells. I heard cells too just now. Taking true ownership of cells, making sure we're supporting each cell, making sure we're giving each cell its proper love. That's how we mitigate addiction. Because it's not about fixing the addiction, it's just about saying, hey, what's the cause of this? There's nothing to necessarily to fix. It's just letting go of stuff that was never us to begin with. I think we just pick up stuff that's never us. So I think energy architecture is just also this. Oh, I have a lot of this stuff. This was never me. This is clogging up this section of energy that's here. I would like for this to be a clear path. Let's get rid of all this debris so that we have a clear channel. You know, and you do that with anything.
Well, how important is it to analyze your relationships and see if, like you said, you walked away from some relationships or distance yourself from some people that you don't have negative feelings toward, but it kind of sounds like it wasn't conducive to the track that you're on or that you want to be on. How important is that to analyze those relationships? Because we're friends with people from, that just happen to go to school with us, that just worked with us, that, I mean, some people are, we have family members. We can't really get away from family members to some degree. How important is it to analyze those relationships and maybe not necessarily like push people out of your life, but maybe put some boundaries up to guard your energy or to, you know, have limits on
I
how
see.
much you interact with
Great
certain
question.
people.
I think maybe the overarching point would be how, because boundaries aren't for other people, boundaries are for you. I set boundaries for myself because it's not anybody else's job to fit into my world. It's my responsibility to fit into the perimeters that I set for my world. So it's not even about keeping everyone else out. It's about keeping myself in this particular vortex and vicinity and frequency and area of which I would like to be in to keep me in my highest excitement. So it's never about, well, this person, that person does this and this thing. I need to stay away from them. No, 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 no. Cordell, what do you want from your life? Because I can't control anything outside of me. I can't control anyone else. It's not my job to do that either. So energy architecture is always about how do we make ourselves, how do I become the best steward of me, you know, and shift my energy and shift the energy, like to shift my energy in the room, to shift my being in general. Not to shift them. I don't need to shift them. I need to shift me. And if they shift, but that's on them.
I do want to ask you about the biohacking conference because it looked really cool. So how did you find out about that? What was it about, and how
So,
was it?
well, there was a couple of things. The biohacking conference in Dallas last year, I found out about it. Um, ads, it's all about in general like biohacking, biohackers. I got into biohacking in general just because all the people I was listening to. So I was talking about earlier, Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of my favorite biohackers in general. I loved basically anything meditation, breath work, holistic. I just wanted to find places and spaces where people were moving into frequency, energy, vibration, all these holistic modalities of healing. Sound frequency, I did them, I practiced them. I've had coaches that I've worked with, both in breath work, and I've had a a biotuning coach as well, tuning your biofield that we have, which is also scientifically studied. So for me, finding that after one day I was doing going on a walk for clarity, got this download. And so downloads for me are like people call it like messages from God or messages from spirit or messages from whatever. Use whatever lingo that you'd like to. For me, they're all the same thing. Either. And it was like, hey, go to the message people about working for them at these conferences that you enjoy because at that time I wanted to be around more people are about this life, about biohacking, about wellness, about longevity, about growing in spirit, about growing their businesses. I'm at that point too. I was like, well, I'm trying to find my purpose again. Like I just was in dance and entertainment and just that, but like I wanted to feel like I was making more of a difference in the world versus like trying to backup dance for these people or working in corporate and doing that. As far as like, dancing and stuff's going. Um, so I found Aeon, the company I work with currently now, as well. There with Pavel, one of their ads came up, and they're all about doing breath work, meditation technologies, ecstatic dance, like utilizing things like blue light, red light, white light therapies to help people heal and get better. And I was like, oh my god, my people, and they're all about bringing the world together as one. I was like, oh my god, this is great. And they happened to be going to this conference which Dave Asprey threw, which is amazing biohacker. He's like the father of biohacking. Um, and they said yes, I could come with them. And then that kind of speed ran what I'm doing now. Just that one decision, and then them saying, "Yo, come," and then all of them, us working together led to that conference, um, which led to me going to more and doing more. But in general, uh, longevity, helping people, healing. I think that's the biggest thing for me is like healing. That's that's what I wanted to be into. I want to be around people that are all about humanity, uniting humanity, utilizing the top technologies, expanding our minds, expanding our brain, expanding imagination. Yeah, and one important part, I think the maybe the crescendo of the biohacking conference, and for me is again really putting the power of our health into our hands, knowing that we have the power to how can we learn about EMFs, what are they doing to our bodies, what are we putting into our bodies, what are we eating, and that's also when I say putting in, it's also what are we listening to, what sound frequencies are we hearing, what kind of information are we putting ourselves into. So that's also huge. Everything is data. So that conference was great, and there's so many thought leaders in the biohacking space that are really here for there's stem cell research, there's research on your sleep, there's research on the types of different supplements you can take to help support you in your growth, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. And I think that the more we surround ourselves with those kinds of people, the better our lives are. Again, highest excitement. That's what excites me. That's what I'm pushing myself into more. So I think the same thing can go for anybody else that's looking for something that they are really wanting to put themselves into. It's like, okay, let's find that. I don't know. Great. Start trying things. Try that. Try it. Just start trying. I think that's what the message was. Is just try. Even in biohacking, like you don't know until you try it. How do I know that this diet or this eating style works? Like the carnivore diet, then you have like the keto, whole food, whole 30, da 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 da. This that. Like what works for you? Are you getting your biomarkers checked? I think that's huge too. What works for your body? How will it work for you? And being surrounded by that. Oh yeah, I met freaking Jim Quick, the brain coach. Like these people, like, and I love him. Like just so many people that are here to elevate us as beings and upgrade our brains. I think that's a big, again, upgrade our software. Upgrade our software. And by upgrading our software, we in turn also upgrade our hardware, because what's in here shows itself out here. My body is a representation of what I believe myself to be. So it's same as yours. Everybody's bodies are a representation of what they believe and see themselves to be. It has to be, or so it will change. So just like you see a change that you want, if you really want the change will happen. If you don't necessarily really want the change, it won't. You can't really lie to yourself and be like, well, you can lie to yourself, but the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the picture. You know, and there might be like, well, what if I have a disease and I have this and that? And I think that even and this is just for me, my thought on that in particular is everything is situational. So there are nuances to everything I've said. So there might be a case where, well, this in this particular case, this thing ended up what this person couldn't do. Heard, understood. I'm sure there's ways to go in and work in that cognitive area to how do I want to put that, to simulate a new reality in the 3D. So new reality in the 3D just means in our external, this external 3D thing versus internal what we see too. So what we see, because like just like this table I'm on, everything comes up from a thought and then gets made into reality. So uh, I know I'm dragging, but biohacking conference for me is dragging the thoughts that are in our heads, and also thoughts I didn't know that were a thing, from different people that have domain knowledge, even deeper domain knowledge, and then taking that, aggregating it, and then seeing what works for me. Same, and so people can do that same thing for themselves. And so that's why I look at when I go to a lot of these conferences and see can these things do for me, and then based upon my experience, I can say these things. If this, whoever that thing helps, then kudos, boom for them. But that's highest excitement. So let's see what does your highest excitement say for you and your body, and your mind, and your soul, and your spirit, your emotion. What are those things? So again, just becoming aware.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing conference. I'm happy you had a good time.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, that one, the Dallas one was great. And we just came back from. There was another two more. We did eudaimonia in Florida, which was really great. And then I just came back from the one from the Biohack Yourself world premiere, the movie. Spoke on stage at that one, which was crazy. Such an amazing experience. Um, and that was for the A4M Longevity Fest in Las Vegas, and that was amazing too. So just can basically just surrounding yourselves with more people, red light, white light, healing modalities. What are we eating? What are we putting in our body? How are we working out? What's our fitness looking like? What is like all these things are just longevity. So it just kind of shows that everything ties into one full thing at the end of the day. So how are we best taking care of ourselves and putting our lives in our own hands and taking full responsibility and ownership and being able to like live and feel and breathe in that authenticity. I think that's huge.
I love it. It sounds awesome, man. Well, Cordell, it's been awesome talking to you, even though we've had some technical issues. And I'm sorry we have to wrap up earlier than expected because I truly love talking to you. But before we wrap up, can you tell listeners where they can find you, where they can find you on X, and where they can find you to work with you? Anything that you'd like to share as well?
Yeah, I love. All my profiles, Instagram, Facebook, X, all my handle is Cordell, Cordell. The number two, Indy, the second, Cordell the second on all platforms currently. Also you can join my newsletter that I have. I'll be starting more of that up this year too. So that is the Cortex, Cortext beehive, beehiiv.com.
Awesome. Cordell, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been a blast, man.
Yeah, thank you too, Artie. Super fun. We're gonna get another. I can't wait for our next one. It's gonna be super lit. All the technology is gonna do all the, the moving and grooving.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot, man.